After that grand jury in Fulton County indicted him and 18 co-defendants this week over an alleged conspiracy to overturn the election results in Georgia, he is now facing a whopping 91 felony counts in total. 91. And right now, Trump seems worried in a way that is sort of unusual for him, at least publicly. We don't know what he does behind the scenes. After promising for days he would hold a major news conference tomorrow on Monday, he canceled. So for Donald Trump to back out and openly admit he did anything at the request of his lawyers, well, one, that's a new thing, but it can only really mean one thing. He's scared.
Oh, that's gonna hurt!
So after teasing the release of an all-caps conclusive report that would lead to, quote, a complete exoneration on Monday, Donald Trump cancelled the press conference, to which MSNBC host Jen Psaki pointed out can only really mean one thing. Is Donnie a wee bit scared?
Week with every new indictment, we're learning more about the kind of country that Donald Trump tried to turn us into after the 2020 election. A country, in his mind, where democracy is no longer the guiding principle, where votes can be found even when they're not earned, where the Justice Department can be used to keep a failed leader in power. But with each new indictment, the latest out of Fulton County, Georgia, we're also learning more about the kind of country that, in the face of all of that, has so far survived. We're learning more about the country we still are, a country where equal justice under law isn't some lofty hypothetical, but actually means something, or kind of means more than anything. Donald Trump continues to learn that lesson the hard way.
And so it doesn't matter your status. We have mugshots ready for you.
After weeks of misspelled ranting on Truth Social, insulting prosecutors and intimidating witnesses, the former president touted the unveiling of, quote, conclusive evidence, only to cancel it per advice from his lawyers.
After that grand jury in Fulton County indicted him and 18 co-defendants this week over an alleged conspiracy to overturn the election results in Georgia, he is now facing a whopping 91 felony counts in total. 91. With a Friday deadline for all of these defendants to turn themselves in, next week means a trip to the Fulton County jail for the former president. And according to the sheriff, it also means a mugshot. That will be a first in this summer indictment tour. And right now, Trump seems worried in a way that is sort of unusual for him, at least publicly. We don't know what he does behind the scenes. After promising for days he would hold a major news conference tomorrow on Monday to finally unveil those apparently irrefutable claims of election fraud, he canceled, citing the advice of his lawyers. Just think about that for a moment. So for Donald Trump to back out and openly admit he did anything at the request of his lawyers, well, one, that's a new thing, but it can only really mean one thing. He's scared. And frankly, he should be. So he's trying everything he can, from the old playbook, just dusting it off, to try and delay any trials, distract, and of course, his favorite, paint the prosecutors who have charged him as political actors out to get him. But here's the thing. His current legal predicament is not entirely the result of individual prosecutors. They're simply doing their jobs. It's not the result of partisan politics. Most people testifying against him are Republicans, MAGA Republicans, many of them. It's the result of his own conduct. My first guest today was the Attorney General for George W. Bush, and he is pleading with his fellow Republicans to at least consider that the problem may rest with Trump and not the prosecution of him for his alleged crimes. Go figure. It's worth repeating. Trump is in this situation because of the actions he himself took as president. He is here because 4 different grand juries, made up of ordinary citizens, as they always are, decided there was enough evidence to indict him on 91 charges. And even as he looks down that long barrel of the months ahead, Trump's fate is not up to one judge or to the special counsel or even to one district attorney. It's up to the ordinary citizens who make up the juries in his cases. Citizens return these indictments as part of the grand juries. Citizens will decide on his guilt. Those are the people who will have the final say. That is equal justice under law. And that is exactly how the system is supposed to work.
While Psaki felt this is a result of the walls closing in, former New Jersey Governor Christie, who's also running for the GOP presidential nomination, responded to Donald Trump's cancellation, calling it, quote, the first smart decision he's made in a while. I'm here for the backhanded shade.
Let's stop normalizing this conduct. This is not normal. And whether you believe that these prosecutions are fair or unfair, strip that away for a second. Is this conduct the kind of conduct, because he doesn't deny the conduct, Is this conduct the kind of conduct you want from a president of the United States?
But while on CNN, Christie said that he isn't surprised about Trump's decision to cancel the press conference, as he thinks the former president is now aware that he is facing jail time and can't make the situation much worse.
Were you surprised, given you know the former president and his penchant for either taking advice or not taking advice, that he canceled that Monday press conference he'd set up because of his lawyers?
No, I'm not surprised by it, because what he now knows is he's facing jail time. And he can't make his situation much worse and expect those lawyers to be able to do anything to help him. What he should have done, Phil, is listen to his lawyers back in the White House between November of 2020 and January 20th of 2021, when they told him, if you continue with this election interference activity, you are going to spend the rest of your life dealing with the criminal justice system. Bill Barr said that yesterday, that's what he was told, not only by Bill Barr, his attorney general, and other members of the Justice Department, but he was told that by his White House counsel as well, Pat Cipollone. He should have listened to those lawyers, and maybe he wouldn't be under indictment in 4 jurisdictions today, and he wouldn't be putting the country through this. He's not doing this for us. He is doing this because he can't help himself. And I think the first smart decision he's made in this regard in a long time was canceling that ridiculous press conference for Monday, where all of a sudden he was going to unveil evidence to us that he's apparently been hiding from the American people for nearly 3 years. I don't think so. I think it would have just been another, junior show of The Apprentice that we would have been watching on television.
I mean, I won't hold my breath on that front, considering the fact that if there's one thing Donald Trump is good at, it's making a dire situation much worse.
In my administration, I'm going to enforce all laws concerning the protection of classified information.
That's the bathroom. That's another example. That's another example of what we're talking about. But on this specific part of the indictment, these documents that are only supposed to be seen with those countries that the United States relies on for intelligence, the most important intelligence that deals with not just national security for the United States, but for the United States' allies. And so this is not just an issue for within the borders. There it is. That's the photo that this part of the indictment is referring to. So it's not just the intelligence and national security of the United States. You have allies around the world looking at these photos, looking at this indictment and saying, this is putting our...
Do we need to bring out the whole injecting bleach press conference again during COVID? Why not?
Supposing we hit the body with a tremendous, whether it's ultraviolet or just very powerful light, and I think you said that hasn't been checked, but you're going to test it. And then I said, supposing you brought the light inside the body, which you can do either through the skin or in some other way. And I think you said you're going to test that too. Sounds interesting. Right, and then I see the disinfectant, where it knocks it out in a minute, 1 minute. And is there a way we can do something like that by injection inside or almost a cleaning? Because you see it gets on the lungs and it does a tremendous number on the lungs. So it'd be interesting to check that. So that you're going to have to use medical doctors with. But it sounds interesting to me. So we'll see, but the whole concept of the light, the way it kills it in 1 minute, that's pretty powerful.
But if his latest decision shows anything, it's that the once untamable freethinker who says what he wants regardless of the despair in his trail is maybe starting to realize that words matter.
On the American public, this is an embarrassment to our country. We're getting ready to win this election. Frankly, we did win this election.
Win, lose, or draw in this election, will you commit here today for a peaceful transferal of power after the election? And there has been rioting in Louisville, there's been rioting in many cities across this country, red and your so-called red and blue states. Will you commit to making sure that there is a peaceful transferal of power after the election?
Well, we're going to have to see what happens. You know that I've been complaining very strongly about the ballots, and the ballots are a disaster.
I understand that, but people are rioting. Do you commit to making sure that there's a peaceful transferal of power?
We want to get rid of the ballots, and we'll have a very peaceful. There won't be a transfer, frankly. There'll be a continuation. The ballots are out of control. You know it.
And you know who knows it better than anybody else? The Democrats know it better than anybody else. Go ahead.
But it can only really mean one thing. He's scared.
Hey Meidas Mighty, love this report? Continue the conversation by following us on Instagram @MeidasTouch to keep up with the most important news of the day. What are you waiting for? Follow us now.